It's Saturday here, probably Saturday where you are, although some of the world may be in Sunday morning, like Australasia. A lot happening this week, or it seems that my head is full of so many things. So am I going to have to take some silence to get a sense of what is present? I kind of feel I've got a mischievous spirit about me today. So we'll see what happens. I kind of get excited sometimes about things, and I do more so on this camera than maybe in real life. So if you met me in real life, you may not get what you're getting on this camera, because of course it's just me, you and the camera, and there's something about that works for me. It was April Fool's Day yesterday, and of course the tradition is that you play your April Fool's joke before 12 o'clock. And the one I had in mind went past 12 o'clock. But I kind of did it, but not as an April Fool's joke. When I was about 20, I had gone to a Bible school in the west of Ireland. And my vision was for Christ Unites Ireland, which was peace in Ireland. At that time, the conflict was still occurring. And I kind of modeled myself on a lot of American, it wasn't just American, but American style preachers. And so there was this photograph of me holding this Bible that I thought that looks like I was trying to be a televangelist or something. So I was going to put it up to say this is when I did a nomination for televangelist of the year 1990 or something. But it didn't. I just put it up, and it's I guess it's 30 odd years ago, so it's created a few smiles. But I feel kind of I was reading this article this week about this woman was writing about an event 35 years ago that changed her life, and it made me think about events in my life that years later still reverberate. And she was talking about women in a Quaker setting, speaking at an event, and speaking about sexism and how women were treated. And 35 years on, that still has an impact for her. So when I was 18, when I went to Birmingham, it was called the Eurofire conference, and there was a German evangelist called Reinhard Bunke. I think I've said it right. Bonke. And he was a very passionate man, and he took his message all over the world, but particularly Africa, and he would preach and he would pray for people to be healed. And I spoke to him briefly a few times. He's now passed on, and despite as often as the case, these very fervent preachers can be very private and personal people when you meet them. So his voice stays with me, and so if I was to try to do the televangelist voice based on Reinhard Bunke, and he had a great saying, hopefully you'll get the saying, I'll say it afterwards if you don't. And so he would say, I want to plunder hell and populate heaven. And so this German accent would come through, and it was a great saying, isn't it? I want to plunder hell and populate heaven. And so I'm not sure I would succeed as a televangelist, but I think nonetheless that to communicate through the medium of YouTube or television, whatever your message is a good one. I think that was a mischievous spirit. Now I don't know whether this is about events. Well, let's go with that. Events. An event. Let's go for an event that occurred in our lives that had a significance to which we still refer to it today. So now I'm going to take the silence and see what comes. Okay, I'm going to go with what comes. But before I do it, I just remembered another thing he used to say. He used to say, "When I see a million souls, I see a million reasons why Jesus Christ died." Yeah, they're great lines, aren't they? And he had a lot of success in his preaching. And actually, he comes up because I've been thinking about what sermons do I remember or talks, and I think there were 4, but I can only remember 3 now. The first one was when I was about 18, and it was in a community centre in a city called Craigavon, which is near where I lived, and it was kind of a new style church, and the preacher spoke. I think it was from Kings. I'm not sure if it was First Kings or Second Kings. Maybe I'm going to have to check out the references. But in this story, he spoke about how the city was going to be plundered within 24 hours, and a prophet had said that the city would be plundered, and so the city went from prosperity to being plundered. And there were these beggars at the gate. And this is the key bit that's remained with me. So the beggars at the gate said, they had a conversation and they say to each other, well, if we go, we'll die. And if we stay, we die. But one of them amongst them said, yes, but at least if we go, or at least this is how I remember, it'd be interesting when we look at the passage, or if I find the passage. But at least if we go, we may live. But if we stay here, we will die. And so they go, and as they go, they survive. It's a bit more biblical than that, but that's the short version of that story. That's always stayed with me because it always says to me in a point of indecision to do something. If we stay and do nothing, something might happen. Somebody may come along. That's true. But certainly in my life, it's been more a case of do something, because as you do something, something will happen. Here's my evangelist slogan. If you do nothing, nothing will happen. If you do something, something will happen. There you go. I'm laughing at myself. Yeah, so I guess that's that particular message. The other one was Reinhardt, and it was in Birmingham. And again, I think it was Second Kings, but I'd have to check the reference. And this story, as I recall, and I haven't prepared, I've just gone, as you do, in this practice with what comes. And I think the prophet said to the king, or to whoever, open the windows. So he opens his windows and he says, shoot your arrow. And where your arrow lands, I don't quite remember what happens. Where your arrow lands, that will be your land. That's what I remember. Again, it's a bit like the other story, and maybe this is the point, is that we hear a story, we might not remember the details of the story, but we remember what becomes the truth for us. And the truth for me in that occasion was, open up my mind, open up my vision, as you would open up the windows. What do you see? And what is your target? And actually, maybe this is more to do with the story now, that he said, what's your target? And as he fired the arrow, he hit it. I can't remember what the target was. For me, it was opening my vision for Ireland. And it was almost like the arrow, metaphorically, was the prayer. So in Birmingham, my prayer, my arrow, was to land in Ireland. That was the target. And that peace would come to Ireland. And as you may know from before, I had a dream, and I got the words Christ Unites Ireland, which followed on from, it was either before or after this happened. And then I committed myself as best as I could to bring peace, or to at least speak the message of peace in Ireland for about 3 years. So, the third one, I'm going to rack my brain to think of what the fourth one is. So the third one was at university, and we had like a Christian union, and we decided, I think it was in the last term of my second year, that we decided to do a series on racism and kind of the Christians need to do something about racism. And we had a guy called Ron Nathan, and I think he was the secretary at the time of the African Caribbean Evangelical Alliance, and he talked about the Memphis Miracle, which may be found in Google if you put in the Memphis Miracle, and Ron Nathan, I think he's back in the Caribbean now, and in his talk, which was about racism, he elaborated further, and he made this quote where he said, never question the humanness of another. That penetrated me, a bit like the arrows. That penetrated me. Never question the humanness of another. He was speaking in the context of racism and what black people have experienced as a result of racism, which I think he would say was largely people not treating people as humans. And of course that had a resonance with Ireland and my own experience of being a Protestant and being pretty anti-Catholic, and I guess had questioned the humanness of others. But that stayed with me, and I think from that day forward I resolved that whatever I thought, I would never question the humanness of another, whatever they did. Those three events would be, some of them would be over 34, 33 years at least. Strange, I can't think of any particular recent ones. In terms of spoken word, someone preaching or speaking, nothing else comes to mind, but there's the three that did. So if I put on my televangelist voice, the challenge to you is to think of an event. Yes, think of an event that spoke to you and maybe changed your life or partly changed your life, and you still connect with it now. So that's a thought for today. Oh, there's a program called that. People get irritated when you say that, thought for the day. I don't know. What shall we call it? Any suggestions, let me know. So, did I do that last impression around Harbunca again. When I see a million souls, I see a million reasons why Jesus Christ died. Of course, I haven't done the American one, but you know, you had people like Jimmy Swagger, and you had you had Robert Schuller and the Crystal Cathedral. Actually, I watched Bobby Schuller, his grandson. He's really, I think he does the TV program very well. But you would get these guys, wouldn't you? And I would be quite moved by their speech. And there was one I remember, and he said, I told you, this mischievous spirit's about me. So he was having a conversation, and he said, this guy said something about, I'm not remembering everything today, so I'm having to make these stories slightly up. So somebody said to him, what zodiac sign are you? So the person says to me, what's my zodiac sign? And I say to him, I don't have a zodiac sign. I tell you what, I don't even go to the sun. I don't even go to the moon. I go beyond the sun, and I go on beyond the moon, and I go to God himself, and that he shall give me a sign. I'm not sure what accent that would be in America, but that's kind of the televangelist voice that I have in my head. I do like how it gets the emotions going. I know some people don't like that, but I do like how these things connect with the emotions. Anyway, you'll be thinking this guy's gone slightly crazy, but maybe so. Anyway, let's have some silence just to calm me down at least. Okay, everyone, have a good day.